Hello everybody, welcome this afternoon to our Shortlist Showcase. I'm Alison McGrobbie. I'm your friendly chapter manager, Queensland Chapter, moonlighting as a newsreader, I've been told I look like. It's my pleasure to be here today with you and to have our wonderful architect members who've been shortlisted for the Jennifer Taylor Award for Educational Architecture. There's a lot of love for these projects and I'm really looking forward to hearing about the background and seeing the process. So without any further ado, I'm going to start walking you through. Our first speakers, Hamilton Wilson and John Thong of Wilson Architects, who in collaboration with Henning Larsen Architects have worked on the QUT project. Hamilton and John couldn't be here today, but in the wonders of technology, they've pre-recorded, and so we're going to actually cross over to their recording. After that, I'm going to introduce you to Natalie Bush and Madison White of McClellan Bush Architects to talk about their project, and then Greg Hewitt of McVeigh Consultants about the project. We were hoping to have Bernard Rush here today with us from Mackesy Rush, but Bernard's been a late scratching, but he gets to go again on another session a bit later. So everybody feel free to use the chat room. These have been such popular programs and yeah, we're really looking forward to hearing the best of our educational projects for 2020. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Alison. Thanks, Alison. This is the Peter Coldrake Education Precinct. We're representing both firms, Wilson Architects and Henning Larsen Architects, based in Copenhagen in Denmark.
I'm Hamilton Wilson.
Hamilton Wilson, and I'm John Thong. This is just an aerial view of the site before commencement of the project. In fact, there were two education buildings on the QUT site at Belton Road. These were demolished to make way for the new education building. The existing library, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is directly adjacent. We'd just like to run through some early concepts, and these were from virtually our first concept design presentation to a client, but we were looking to connect this site and this project directly to the campus heart, which was at the upper end of the site, adjacent to the library.
It also should be noted that the original master plan for the site had the building a little bit further south, and in our submission we were strongly recommending that if we could bring it north and make these critical connections back to the library, it would be greater than the sum of all those places.
And it brings the focus, I guess, of this building back towards the centre of the campus. At the very top of the building, there's the opportunity for a wonderful function space to the campus, which overlooks a broad overview of the. And we were looking to reinforce the edges of the buildings and see how it could connect both internally to the adjoining building and also to an existing roadway, which is pedestrianised and urbanised as part of the project. Similarly, this was the expectation that holistically the building will be used by the whole campus and by anyone who comes onto the campus, but we were intent on making a home for the faculty education students within the building on one of the levels and have a direct connection to the academics they work with. And to achieve that, I guess we reinforced, highly visible circulation routes through the building. And maximised, the flexible pedagogies throughout the building and enhanced the capabilities of our space that we've captured between the library and our building by creating a variety of different spaces as informal social learning spaces that connected directly to all of the more formal teaching spaces. This is a section. The very lowest level was connecting to the existing roadway, which was called Ring Road, and that was pedestrianised into a pedestrian zone. It was then 2 levels up 9 metres that connected into the library, which is on the right-hand side of the image. Our new building then was 6 levels, so level 0 at the bottom and level 5 at the very top. and in between the two buildings, the library and our new building, captured that with new landscape.
One of the issues before this building was developed was a very strong physical disconnection between this upper platform 9 metres above the ring road. So we were very conscious of how this new inserted facility could tend to create a much stronger connection between these level extremes.
An overall site plan. The ring road we talked about, which was urbanised and pedestrianised, runs along the eastern side of the site. The library at the top of the page, there was a new energy precinct building, a southern landscaped area, which incorporated yarning circles, and our new building, which stepped in form to follow the profile of a ring road. There was an existing pedestrian bridge and a new campus spine stairway, which was enhanced through the course of the project. Contextually and its identity will run around the peripheral of the building. On the left is the two-storey energy precinct building, which was part of this project and served the precinct for energy. This is the southern elevation with sunshade and the landscape forecourt. And then the building as a whole was 3 separate volumes. On the southern side, edge of the site, the volumes step up as it comes more towards the campus spine stairway and the centre of the campus.
So that helped volumetrically with this visual and symbolic connection between these two major platform levels.
Another view, you can see the campus spine on the bottom right of that image, but there was a degree of transparency we were also trying to achieve from the exterior spaces looking into the building. And this veil of the zigzag-shaped sunshades wraps around on the predominantly the eastern side, and then flat sunshades on the north and south faces. Those sunshades shield the building directly from direct sunlight in the mornings, and then on the left-hand image they open up towards the city views. You can also see the mirrored soffit there, which was a shiny, glimmering soffit to the volumes that reflected the activity both within and looking from the inside out. So it animated that whole surface of the building. A veil of sunshades. Moving towards the inside of the building, we've got this the very lowest level, which is the same level as the pedestrianised street. We've consciously kept this transparent with full height glass, but ran the natural stone, the granite pavers from inside to outside, so that there is this connection, and that enabled the learning atmosphere to migrate between inside and outside of the building, and passers-by can equally participate visually with the building. You can see on the image on the left the reflectivity of that soffit as it migrates from outside to inside, and then in this image it reflects the landscape outside.
So we were also very conscious of was using this form of the building, which is a series of volumes stepping around the site. You can start to see how those motives are extended into the landscape in terms of its furniture and into the interiors with the loose furniture. So you'll see this sort of motif of these interconnecting forms or these simple, almost geometric forms right throughout the whole building.
There was a strong connection to the library. As we said, we took out and removed an existing portion of the wall that opened up our building and made a direct connection into the existing library. And the campus stair on the top side of that plan on the northern side, and the visual connections from outside to inside as well. Internally, we're now sort of in the atrium garden space, and the natural light filters down through 5 large skylights at the very top of the atrium space, and that provides light for the planting and forms an integral component is the light, the way the natural light moves through the space and the landscape garden. Texturally, there's natural materials throughout. So we've got natural stone on the floors, and then for the vertical elements, we've used the slatted timber, black butt timber. The actual atrium itself connects a series of interconnected spaces. So the image on the right there is overviewing level 4 at the very top. Level 3 is a peer-to-peer student space, and level 2 and 1 are predominantly social learning spaces. The garden itself, I guess, people generally hover pretty close to the garden. There is a variety of different spaces nearby for individuals, for small groups, and respite spaces, but the materiality sort of seems to reflect this timeless quality of timber next to a natural garden setting. More of the garden, we've got some vertical hanging vines on little garden columns.
The timber screen you see on the right actually is cladding over the two-storey extension, the old two-storey extension to the library, and above that is a clerestory light that brings in more light in the afternoon into the space. So the timber screen actually helps moderate the junction between these two quite different buildings.
And this is in the depth of the building in level 1. The sphere itself is a visualisation element, 5 metres in diameter, but it really only came into true realisation maybe a third of the way through construction, and then everything revolving around that sphere was modified and adapted just to accommodate this new element. But it is an anchor for the building, both visually. It sort of anchors and orientates people as they make their way through the building.
All the social learning spaces in the building have been designed around flexibility so that that they can be both used for students in peer-to-peer study, or they could become an event space or a presentation space. So we're very conscious of trying to maximise how the building could be used throughout its future.
And a choice of setting, as we said. And they tend to enjoy just lounging around on all the loose furniture. That's all movable and loose, the furniture itself. In terms of a flexible teaching environment, all the sort of structured teaching runs to the extremity, and then the social learning areas congregate around the atrium garden, and then there's that connection directly into the library at the top of the page. There's an informal amphitheatre that cascades and follows the topography of the campus stairs on the right-hand side. But they're large rooms, in this case with an operable wall that peels back to reveal and make use of 2 spaces and or give the option for a single space. We've got accommodating technology throughout and sliding whiteboards to enable and give flexibility to how the groups use and share the spaces. There are visual glazed panel walls, glazed partitions, which overlook back to the sphere and the garden just to give that connection back and reinforce the sense of place and the setting within the building.
The other note there on the previous slide is that these rooms can also be opened, obviously used for teaching purposes, but they can also be used as social learning spaces. So we've got large sliding doors that can be opened, and students can then occupy the space as an extension of the exterior social learning space.
Which they are here, just informally using the rooms when not in use for formal teaching. Academic workplace up on level 3 of the building. This one accommodates all the academic researchers, and probably best summed up with this diagram where these central spaces are all support spaces, smaller meeting room, booths, chat rooms, common rooms, and the entire perimeter is given over to open plan workplace. And the yellow portion is a student lounge for the Faculty of Education students so that they have a direct connection to the academics and the researchers. The perimeter workplace, naturally lit because it's directly onto floor-to-ceiling glazed facade, and then we've incorporated the natural timbers and reinforced that connection with the landscape with the planting which runs throughout this floor plate. The inner rooms, the booths, are all double glazed partitions, so you still get that visual connection from that inner sanctum of the booths. It's overlooking the staff common room. And then there are smaller respite spaces throughout the floor plate. This one on the corner that primarily has the best view out of the building overlooking the city. The student lounge areas, a variety of different furniture types and arrangements, allowing small group, individual group, and interwoven through that is the use of technology. Small open little meeting booths. It sort of promotes that visual connection from one group to another as well. Community engagement, there is a function floor on level 5, which is the very topmost floor. You can see here there's a function space, a breakout in the middle, and then a lounge breakout space. These have sort of got openable and partitions which allow all three spaces to be used at once, or they can be used individually. In this case, it's the function space at the northern end, and mirrored on the ceiling are reflective skylight shafts that mimic a chandelier in a grand dining room. So it sort of heightens the reflectivity and the light that refracts through the space. And on this level, I guess the use of timber was enhanced with the floors and ceilings as well. In this arrangement, you can see the sliding doors are open. There's large pivot doors to the function space at the end, so the whole floor plate can be used as a single function, or, as I said before, can be broken down into individual functions. And there's smaller, more intimate spaces on the floor. There's some syndicate booths along with corporate education spaces and teaching spaces on this floor. Sustainability-wise, there was a lot that was integrated into the project. We've got 75 kilowatts of PV cells on the roof. There's 60,000 litres of water harvesting tanks underneath the tiered amphitheatre. A lot of the passive control, certainly with the sun shading and high performance glass. A lot of the projects that everyone works on these days incorporates a lot of these elements as well. The biophilic nature of the internal planting does contribute a lot to the use of the atrium, plus also the workplace on level 3. It's probably one of the stronger elements of feedback that we get is the use and the natural environment that garden setting provides to the people that use the building. And our final slide, really this atrium has anchored this building on the site and provided a real memorable place and setting on the campus for all the users. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hamilton Wilson and John Thong from Wilson Architects, who created this beautiful space in collaboration with Henning Larsen Architects. Yeah, fantastic to see through the project. So now we're going to go up to the Sunshine Coast, and we're going to hear about the genesis and the development and the creation of the Caloundra Christian College Primary Learning Centre. So I want to introduce you to Natalie Bush, for those who don't know Natalie, and Madison White of McClellan Bush Architects. So take it away, Natalie and Madison.
Thank you, Alison, and thank you AIA for providing this opportunity to present this very special project, the new primary years learning building at Caloundra Christian College. We're starting with our favourite image from Andy McPherson. Andy has captured so many lovely moments within this building and the outdoor play spaces. This photo is beautiful. The setting sun reflects off the building, casting a shadow on the teal walls. It's all sparkly and all emotive. But architecture is more than an image, and particularly with this building. It's about process and about experience. At McClellan Bush, we value the managing architect role. We are concerned about the devaluing of architecture to simply building design, because we know as facilitators of the building process, a good managing architect is key to the project's successful outcome. We see every day in what we do that we contribute positively to the process, whether it be hearing stakeholders' goals for the project at the very beginning of the project, seeing these goals are strengthened and not diluted in the design, documentation and construction process, or we provide value justifying decisions and costs in funding applications, or informing client decisions, maintaining quality and design integrity and value management. But perhaps most importantly, we create value by identifying and resolving workmanship issues during construction, which is unfortunately becoming more and more of a concern at the moment. Also to this, and also equally important, is our value in the process in providing confidence to the client that they're not alone in the process and that they are heard. And this image is important to us because we realise that the client is not just the adults, but the children. We manage this project for Caloundra Christian College from project briefing, team formation, funding application through design documentation to tender, value management and into construction and occupation, and then into post-evaluation. 1.5 years post-completion, we still consider ourselves in post-evaluation phase. We're not sure we ever finish post-evaluation when it comes to our projects. Our ongoing relationship with our clients, the staff and students is really important to us. And just as we create spaces for education, we are continually being educated. Establishing a dialogue with experts that makes what we do relevant as the needs of the learners change, making each project more informed through collective knowledge. Coordination, detailed documentation, specifications and construction administration isn't easy. It takes time and it requires experience to learn how to do it too. But the results when done by someone skilled and invested in the whole project really speaks for itself. Architects, please don't give up on the managing architect role. Please educate the students, graduates, architects in firm. Please invest in this now. Our industry and the quality of the built environment needs it. While we have a specific niche at McClellan Bush, no project is the same. We draw on similarities and experiences of past projects. The process of construction for all projects is different, however. Our clients' goals are different. And we like it like that. We believe that projects are unique because of context, site, and the brief. We believe that also, when we're around the table, that there are many other experts other than ourselves, even if we class ourselves as an expert. We have students as expert learners, teachers as expert teachers, and facilitators in learning. And we also have consultants as experts. And in this project, we had an expert in landscape design and outdoor education involved in the process. So creating schools must be a collaborative process. As architects, we need to recognise our expertise is also in facilitating that collaboration.
All right, we'll jump on to discuss the building a little bit, and it will come as absolutely no surprise that Caloundra Christian College is located in Caloundra. This aerial view shows the surrounding beautiful coastal context that the college and the new building responds to. When considering the immediate college site, it is adjacent to the main roundabout on the corner of Nichollen Way and Caloundra Road, and the building is located on a small parcel of land next to the main and only access road into the college. There are a lot of constraints on this site, but there were also a lot of opportunities. Before we show any imagery of the building, we first wanted to show this mood board that was put together very early on in the project. It provides an insight into some of the early thinkings behind this project and how these then translated into the built form. There are a number of key design factors that were considered throughout all stages of the project, which are portrayed in a very simple way in this early mood board. The core concept of this project was children and play being at the centre of design. This was considered with every decision that was made. It was about making sure that everything that went into the building had a positive impact on student learning and on play. To support this, there was a focus on natural light, ventilation, and internal and external connections in regards to both access and visual connections. Another key factor was the coastal context. The ideas behind the aesthetical elements of the building has always centred around creating a homely and human scale learning environment that also pays homage to the surrounding coastal context. This was addressed through colour, material, texture, and scale in the building. This then leads us into the next design consideration, scale. This is a 3-storey building and it has quite a dense building program on a quite constrained area of the site. Scale was an important consideration because the building needed to do 2 things. The external of the building needed to address the surrounding main roads and to create a visual connection to the surrounding community. So to do this, the external of the building was designed to strengthen the college's presence in the community and to address the main roads. But the other side of that was that both the external form and the internal spaces of the building needed to consider scale so it was not intimidating to young primary students. Both the internal and the external was designed to have a range of spaces that provide different levels of scale for different activities. And we paid a lot of attention as to how you transition between these spaces. Acoustics and colour are always key considerations in school projects, and this is no different. Acoustic consideration is extremely important for student learning, and we did a lot in this building to address acoustics, not just from an internal perspective, but also due to the proximity to the nearby main roads. When it comes to colour in this building, I will keep it very brief because I could talk about colour and the impact of colour in learning environments for a very long time. But in this building, colour was used in a variety of different ways. It was used to create a sense of ownership for the students, to create different scales throughout the building. There was a consideration of how different age groups respond to different colours, and also how colour could be used to link to the coastal context and to provide a homely feel, regardless of what scale of space the students are learning in. The last factor that we wanted to highlight is project value. This project is great value at $5.7 million. 5.2 million if you exclude the playscapes, but we ask you please do not do this, as these are integral to the students' learning experiences. And they were recognised yesterday in the LEA Awards as one of 2 of the best outdoor learning spaces in Australasia in 2020. These play spaces are by Green Edge Design. $5.7 million may not be a lot of money when you look at some other schools and university facilities, but is a big figure for most independent schools who do get a portion of funding, but largely finance these projects by themselves. From a program perspective, this building includes 8 general learning environments, 3 flexible learning areas, a pedestrian bridge, staff areas, external covered learning environments, amenities, and outdoor play spaces, just to name a few. To the college's credit, they saw the value of these spaces they were creating for their educators and their students. The project is great value for money, not only because of the quality, design, and the program, but because the workers and the learners using the space were valued and feel valued.
Mad mentioned that the key aspect of the project is the student-centred approach. It was key to the college. It was key when it came to imagining the possibilities of the internal and external learning environments. It was key to the college's selection of the landscape architect. This building was designed at a time also when my eldest was commencing school. All the hopes and dreams I had for him in his future learning environments were discussed with teachers, probably too much. I like to believe, though, that these ideals were resolved in this project. Conversations about learning also were included in the conversations, and we took a look at the world from a demographic point of view, and we referred to a lot of research that's done by McCrindle about alpha generation and what Australia would look like demographically for these students when they're in their early 20s and exiting formal learning. The landscape in Australia and the landscape in the world, certainly from a demographic point of view, is going to look very different for this generation of learners. We hear so much about the impacts of automation and technology for the future, but there is so much more. We, the project team, all had fears of an overstimulated world for this generation. Discussions were had about mental health and well-being and how childhood needed nurturing for mental health, physical, social, and mental well-being and development. Therefore, learning needed to encompass play, collaboration, and community. And we really formed these three ideals. So play, the building, so touching on these three issues, and play being the central to that, and we put that at the top of this picture graphically. The building respects childhood, and play respects childhood. It celebrates learning through play and puts this on display. Critical skills such as the ability to create, collaborate, and take calculated risks with others, be resilient, is all developed through play, and the engagement with others in the environment also develops this. Play also decompresses students. Let's face it, it decompresses everyone. Self-regulation is such an important skill for human beings, and play does that naturally. The other thing we talked about was community. The building honours community by creating external play spaces and common hub spaces, and allows community to gather. The density of the building also creates a greater sense of community amongst the students and creates a busier vibe, being three-storey building with connecting voids. The building is a journey. Also, the prep students are able to see where they're going in their learning journey as they progress up through the building, and the older primary students are able to see where they're coming from as they're at the top of the building, looking down through the void spaces. Collaboration is also key, and the building encourages and investigates collaborative learning. It establishes and enables a range of teaching and learning styles by providing a variety of learning environments which are connected through common hubs. This is a plan of the bottom level of the building. There are 2 ground levels, but all 3 levels of the building are connected with their own entrance. The prep level is on the ground level, and it gives prep a sense of ownership of the ground space. The designated learning spaces are highlighted in yellow there, and there's individual and small group learning spaces within those that are identified in the pink. But most importantly, these spaces break out into collaborative, flexible learning spaces where the communities, the prep community can come together. It then extends further into an outdoor play space, which is covered and uncovered. Natural light is important to students' development, in all of our development, particularly important in learning and in eye development too. So have this space. This space is where you drop your prep student off. There are no nerves from a student or a parent when you drop your child off in a play space. So that was really about deinstitutionalizing learning, and it successfully does that. The next level up is a lot more activated, just purely because of the density. The 4 learning spaces, designated learning spaces, adopt the same concepts of individualized learning areas within the classrooms, but also extends out into the void spaces and collaborative, flexible community spaces. Here is an image of the collaborative community space, and you can see how learning within the associated classroom spaces and the small group learning areas are all visible and all on display. This space here is always different every time we go to the college. It is sometimes a function space, it is sometimes a library space, it is sometimes a chill out space, and it is sometimes just a crazy space. This is the upper level of the building. It's where our older students in the primary school learn on a day-to-day basis. It's linked via a new bridge link that connects to the rest of the campus and to the main open play space, and to another designed and articulated play space by Green Edge as well. All this space has connection visually to the community spaces and visually and physically to the play spaces. And in all of what we do, we introduce natural light, look out and look up and look beyond. It's really important for well-being. So we just wanted to finish our presentation with some images from the students. It is student-centered, and there's some lovely images that the students have produced. We literally have 100 of these. But we might stop on this one.
And we'll just wait for your screens to catch up. But for me, my passion to do with architecture is in regards to colour in educational architecture and the impact that colour can have on enhanced learning. So for me, this is probably one of the most successful and most powerful images of this whole project. And I'll just read you this quote. So it was by Crystal. She wrote, "I really like the colours. The colours brighten up your ears. The colours are electric, and even our classroom is colourful." So this is just such an important thing to me. If we look at this image, you've got down on the bottom some green space, natural play area with some students who are playing. You've then got the sky above them, and then above that you've got this colourful rainbow. And this image was drawn as a response to the built form that we created, but it depicts a natural environment. So everybody measures success in very different ways, and for me, this is one of the most powerful images of the project, and this portrays to me the success of this project for its students.
So let's finish with Maria Montessori's quote, "Children are human beings to whom respect is due, superior to us, reason of their innocence and of the greater possibilities of their future."
Wonderful, fantastic. Thank you so much, Natalie and Madison, for that presentation. Yeah, so inspiring. I loved the comment about, you know, it being a journey through the building, the whole process. So it was wonderful. I have to say that this particular project is bittersweet because it actually was awarded the Gabriel Poole Award for Sunshine Coast Architecture of the Year. And as we all know, beloved Gabriel Poole passed away just a few weeks before this was awarded. So I'm sure he would have been absolutely staggered and proud and loving of this project. So congratulations.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
So we've seen tertiary education, we've seen primary education, and we're going to stay on the Sunshine Coast now and look at secondary education. And I'd love to introduce you to Greg Hewitt. Greg was, when I first joined, was on chapter council, so I'm delighted to see him wearing his architect's hat, not chapter councillor hat. Yeah, so Greg, you're going to talk about the Maroochydore Senior School. So
thank you. I'll just share my screen. I must say too, very much honoured to be asked to present this project, but also just honoured to be in such great company with the fantastic projects we've just seen, and thank you to the previous two presenters. Just some beautiful work. So yeah, bear with me. I wish I had such a great presentation, but mine's a little more prosaic, I guess, because it is a high school that's on the Sunshine Coast at Maroochydore. It is the brief for this project was that it's a dedicated senior building for primarily Year 12 learning. And just a little bit of history, Maroochydore State High School was only founded in 1963, so it's relatively new, I guess, compared to some metropolitan schools, but it's very much that sort of typical Queensland model. Thankfully, they did get the orientation right on these buildings. This is a shot from 1973, actually. So, but you can see they're kind of linear, fairly, well, very institutional, I guess you could say, if you're being kind. But that's the original campus. Our site happens actually to be over here, which looks as if it was once a paddock next door, but it's no longer. Maroochydore is no longer looking like this, as I'm sure you'll be aware. So this is the campus in 2017, so just before we started work. That's those original buildings we saw, those three buildings there and this one. Since then, you know, you can see that the campus has grown. But this school particularly has not had a lot of investment in the buildings for a very long time. Things like the actual school hall, whoops, let's go back. The school hall itself was put together as two second-hand sheds that the school parents welded together, I believe, is the story that we heard. So I was having a bit of a with my slide here. Anyway, our site was these tennis courts, some bitumen tennis courts, basketball courts here next to the tennis courts. And our job was to provide this dedicated Year 12 campus, including a car park, and to really create a focal point for the senior students. So our objective with that was to really provide a space that celebrated the penultimate year of high school for these students, and to really celebrate their achievement of not only getting there, but their transition between their secondary learning and their transition into either the wider world or into tertiary education. So our building was really focused on that. We really wanted to celebrate that and to capture, I guess, the excitement of that transition. So the plan itself is a very, very straight, very much a modernist plan, grid-based for simplicity, and I think, well, I guess my architectural education is that if it looks simple, or it doesn't look simple, it's not finished yet. So it's a very, very linear plan, very straightforward, with central circulation spine, access ways at either end, and grouping the learning spaces through, these are the 3 learning spaces here, which all interconnect, because one of the change in the curriculum for Year 12, starting this year, was that external examinations would take place, and that's what will happen in these areas here when they open up all of these operable walls, and they can have their exams through here. So extra wide, things like extra wide corridors, because these kids are large, they're 6 foot something or other usually, they're getting bigger. So a lot of the spaces were kind of circulation spaces were over designed. But these are some of the early renders of the project, which luckily resemble the final products. That's always a good thing. But at this stage, we were designing for a future infill, but even during the course of the project, the population had increased, or the student population had increased to the point where we needed to actually infill that space as part of our initial project. Again, these are some of just the early renders. So it's a very simple plan. It's a very simple geometric forms that we're using, and we're also just drawing on some of the materiality of the various buildings that have survived on the campus over the course of its 50-odd year history. So this is the final product, I guess. Just jumping towards the end, I guess. But so we're actually, there was a few things that were really working quite well. In that we were lucky enough to have one of those sort of surprises that came along in the project that we didn't expect, which was that the heights, the existing RLs of the plumbing meant we actually had to raise this building up on its own sort of platform plinth, which sort of helped us a little bit in sort of emphasising the building itself and its landscape, and really giving that giving its own kind of cohesion with a single building on a platform, which is a bit of a rare treat, I suppose. The materials are very tightly controlled, of course, because of the usual sort of budget constrictions, and also the requirements of the Department of Education's very stringent requirements for materials and robustness and so forth. But we were able to introduce some flashes of colour and some sort of key themes, which you can kind of see here, that create and sort of celebrate moments of interaction, and that as Will Zarks this was referring to, kind of those social interaction spaces that happen to just encourage social learning and the key social interactions of students at this age, where it's all very exciting as they move into the transition into adulthood. So I guess the approach to the building from the rest of the campus is from up these stairs or down through that corridor through to the left there, and the brick elements reflect the buildings to the east of this building, and the covered walkway, of course, connects through the network of covered spaces through. On this side of the building, which is actually where we've got our backs to the north and we're looking at the building, we see we raised these roofs and created this large overhang to create these social spaces with beautiful landscaping from form landscape in a very curvilinear kind of fashion, with casual seating and sort of group clusters of encouraging group clusters of kids to interact in those spaces. And I guess some of the key elements, I really enjoyed the commentary from Colin Bush on the use of colour in the early learning stages. So we're probably a little more subdued here, but we really wanted to use bright colours to celebrate the transition of even just going up the stairs. So they're kind of these areas that pop out of the building through the circulation spaces that run through the central spine. To get to those, you climb up these stairs, which are all fully internally painted with this flash of the yellow colour, which happens to reflect the logo, which is always a key design component, strangely, for the schools. But luckily enough, they had this bright yellow, so that was our reason, I guess, or part of our justification for using this flash of colour. But what we really wanted to do is to celebrate that the moving up the stairs, and the corridors and stairways are often quite dull, uninteresting places, but we really wanted to celebrate the movement through the building, and I guess the joy of going from one level to another in a group as you're talking with your friends, hopefully excitedly about what the class you're just about to go to or you just come from. Elevationally, very simple, of course, very simple forms. There's things like 10-degree roof pitches that are stipulated through the department, but we tried to just keep things, by keeping the main volumes very simple and the forms very simple, it allows us to, I guess, have some, build in a few other moments in the building that aren't just about the prosaics of square meterage and material costs and that sort of thing. So you can see there's a lot of use, a variety of use of louvers, so a lot of natural ventilation. This is actually the south elevation, so getting a lot of that south light into the classrooms, the learning areas and the GLAs, as well as getting the natural ventilation through those spaces. We really wanted to pop out these, sort of extrude the corridor, the central corridor spine, to create not only an overhang for sheltering to get into the building, but also moments where students can sort of gather and observe, from a second story, what's going on below and sort of other parts of the campus, and that kind of casual social interaction and the variety of spaces that overlook each other for that sort of casual surveillance by staff, but also just the, just people enjoying seeing the building alive with movement and kids at different levels and interacting at different around different parts of the building. Very simple section. You can see that clerestory that we created through there to get the natural light through. This view here is actually at the top of the stairs, where we have the at the top of the stairs another gathering space which backs onto the lift to give us access to both levels, of course. And then these little seating areas that are just recessed into walls, just to create just a sense of belonging and a little sense of ownership, or a sense of same people frequenting those areas and sort of making them their own, inhabiting the spaces in the building. The glass area there, I can't see my cursor, but that is the staff preparation areas, which again has that casual surveillance area across the play areas, as well as the undercroft area that you can see here. And again, that flash of colour on those columns, just to bring that sort of thread through, but in a subtle way with a very simple, limited palette of colours, fairly muted, of course, the whites and the greys, but then just flashes of the deep blue and the yellow, just in a fairly controlled and restrained way to just sort of celebrate the, just to celebrate a little bit of the joy of being there, I hope. Again, we used some face brick here just as a reference thread through, but really not trying to push that too hard, but just to anchor the building a little bit back to its history, its built form history that sort of surrounds this building. You see the light coming through that clerestory there, but it's deep enough overhang that really there's no rain going to get into these spaces. You can see how wide these corridors are and how well lit they are through to the north. So bringing the north light in, but a lot of shelter and shade from obviously the heavy rain that we get up on the Sunshine Coast frequently, and also just keep out the sun. But just really simple. I mean, really, this is a very simple building with a simple geometry, but just for carrying some of the, sorry, just moving to the interiors now. Here we have, we've sort of carried some of the colouring through, again, just in a sort of controlled way. The storage areas have got these roller fronts on them, but just that pop of yellow, I guess, again, just to bring, you know, I guess a lot of us remember just sitting in boring classrooms and, you know, dull, well, I do anyway, very dull grey type spaces. So just a little bit of vibrancy in the colours internally as well, just to lift the space. We've been really pleased with the response to the building. This building only opened at the start of this year, so Year 12s loved it, at least for a month or so, until a lot of them go home, but they're back now. But we're told that the response has been really positive, and that there's a real sense of ownership and pride in the building, which hopefully transpires into great results for the students themselves. But it's just the fact that there's been this investment in their education future that has been, it's been one of the comments that's come back through from the school community to us, that it's kind of an endorsement and a validation of them reaching their penultimate year, and that their education is actually valued and public education is valued as well. So that's been a very worthwhile result, we feel, from the interaction with this building. These are just rolling through with some images again. So this has got you can see here the connection through the existing walkway network through here. And also this space on the left-hand side here, this garden space between this building and the existing music wing, which runs parallel to our building, that sort of created this sort of unexpected opportunity to create a sort of landscape courtyard between the two buildings. Again, with that raised plinth sort of idea of lifting the building as we dealt with the contours of the site, but it just also gave us a nice sort of green space to play with between our building and the new building, and create a nice sort of transitional zone between the two buildings that's sheltered on the south side of the building. Some of the reference elements too, there's some great breeze block, so we've kind of just drawn on a very simple reference to that, just used in a different way for the screens as we go up the stairs here. And we've just used that elsewhere for bringing natural light into the building, but natural ventilation at the same time, and just a very simple reference to those screens. So that's, I had that on automatic because I thought I had less time than we have, but I thought that might be a good spot to stop anyway.
Thank you, Greg. That's fantastic. Yeah, I absolutely love the pop of yellow, is amazing. Looking at all the awards photos, that was one that really stood out to me. So really love it. And I love the use of the breeze blocks as well. We have one question, if we can unmute everybody, just very quickly. Somebody has asked about accessibility and just an understanding of, you know, how you've woven that through the design, whether that was part of the brief or a challenge, I suppose.
I'll just jump in only because I've just been finishing speaking. But yes, certainly it's part of the brief. Naturally, of course, it's always part of the brief is to connect the new buildings of the campus to the existing campus in an equitable way. So that's always part of the brief. And as soon as, of course, we have a two-storey building, the standards and the codes require us to put in lifts to accommodate that in any case. So it's never a surprise, and it's never not something that's considered for these sorts of buildings for everybody here.
Yeah. So the Caloundra Christian College project actually it has a lift between all three levels, but is also accessible from the two ground levels, and the upper level has a bridge link, an accessible bridge link, or the start of an accessible connection through to the rest of the school. It's stage one in managing the whole accessible build connection through the whole site, and it's part of a greater master plan that we've been working up with the school. I'm not sure if we don't really have a photo of it, but it's yeah. So the building also solves a problem with accessibility from the street to the rest of the school and accessibility from the building to the rest of the school, as well as managing accessibility through all 3 levels.
John, I've seen you there. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make on the building? Sorry, I've outed you. I saw you sitting there.
Yes, sorry, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Look, like the other 2 projects, yes, accessibility forms a big part of the facilities for access for everyone. It's non-discriminatory as usual. That goes without saying on a lot of these projects.
Fantastic. And the other question we've been asked is, I suppose, picking up that theme of journeying. You know, the children that come to beautifully designed primary school then go to the beautifully designed high school and then the fantastic designed campus building. I mean, you know, thinking back to my awful environments of learning, has there been any sort of longitudinal studies that you're starting to look at now that that really show that that has an effect on, you know, as you go to each building? Does that make sense? Bad question.
If I can answer that, I suppose initially, it was certainly an important aspect when we were doing the briefing with the Faculty of Education staff. They were actually saying a lot of the school students, particularly the younger year school students, were actually coming into university better prepared with the facilities that they were in the new building.
We've just lost John. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yep. Back again, John. That's okay. Getting techie.
So that might work now.
That's all right. Good.
The
Faculty education staff were saying that as students come through, they're better prepared. And at that stage, they had really old facilities at the university prior to the building that we just finished, and they were quite envious of the school students, the facilities that they had, and they were coming through into really old facilities at that point in time. So just seeing these 2 projects for the school students reflects exactly that scenario where they're getting good facilities. They're actually probably learning in different ways and coming to a university. It's all a new experience for them. So it's a bit of noise in the background here, but it's might have to mute and hand over if others have a comment.
Great, thank you. Great. Well, everyone, I think that's pretty much what we've got time for. As you know, these sessions are recorded, so you know, feel free to access it later, pass them on. And I just want to again thank everybody, thank Hamilton, John, Natalie, Madison and Greg for not only producing these amazing buildings for our students and our future learners and hopefully leaders, but also being the time this afternoon as well to present. We're going to wish you the best of luck with the State Awards going through, and hopefully you've all starting to log in to, you know, get your party outfits on, your virtual party outfits, because that'll be the 9th of July. We'll be announcing the State Awards. 15th, next Monday, if you want to tune in, you can see the Beatrice Hutton Award for Commercial Architecture shortlist. And I think Julie said we've got about another 5 of these to go. But yeah, we're getting great feedback. Everyone's really enjoying them. Feel free to give us any feedback, or if you've got any questions, we're very happy to pass them on to the project teams that you've seen today. So thank you again, everybody. Happy Friday.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.